There are 8 banks right now, 8 Western banks, commercial banks, that hold the largest concentrated short position of any commodity ever traded in the history of the COMEX market, ever, in silver. This little tiny itty bitty market, you have 8 of the most powerful Western banks in the world stepping on it so that it will not go up.
There's been traders who have been convicted, I believe, of manipulating the silver market in the past. I can't remember which
head
banks.
Trader of JP Morgan, Michael Nowak, and a couple others, and yet they're still allowed to be the custodian of the world's largest silver trust, SLV.
So why are they doing it? That's what I can't narrow down. Why?
Because the military-industrial complex is, who the hell do you think's running this country right now? Who's selling all of the armaments around the world? Who's funding the wars? Who's making these decisions? Who's way up there? Where do all of these former bank execs and employees go to? If not JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, they go to the military-industrial complex like Raytheon and whatnot, and the big string pullers. Why would they not list silver in the supply-demand fundamentals? Why are we told that, and if you Google, now it's out there, that there's 500 ounces in the tip of a tomahawk. Why is it not in the supply-demand numbers? And I think one way that this can really be, where you can take empirical evidence and say, yeah, well, wow, it is exactly what you just brought up. And, you know, my friend Chris Marcus did an interview with Bart Chilton, and I would implore everyone to watch it. Came on Chris's show, and he said the following. I'm going to paraphrase it. He said, Bear Stearns went bankrupt, and they held the largest short position in silver that the commodity exchange had ever seen. And at the time, it was Hank Paulson and Ben Bernanke. Ben was the head of the Fed, and
Paulson the
Treasury Secretary,
right.
and they called in Jamie into his office. This is being told to Chris on this podcast. You can watch it for yourself. And Bart says, we said to Jamie, listen, Jamie, Bear Stearns just went bankrupt. They have this massive short in silver. We need you to take it. Okay, fellas, I'll take it, but I will be in violation of position limits. That's okay, Jamie. We'll give you a period of time to pare them down so that you can get into the proper position limits so you're not violating, you're not doing anything illegal. Okay, great, cool. So off he goes. He agrees to take it, and some time goes up by, and Bart Chilton takes a look at things, and he's like, he runs into his superiors, and he says, listen, we're at the end of the time frame we gave them, and in fact, they haven't pared it down. They've in fact increased it. They're in violation of our agreement. They're in violation of antitrust law. They need to be prosecuted. And he was told, back down, Bart, it's a political decision. Back down, Bart, it's a political decision. Bart died a week later. Now, I'm not saying it was coincidental.
Right.
Maybe it just was natural.
Did you know that 8 of the most powerful Western banks hold the largest concentrated short position in silver ever seen in the history of the COMEX market? It's clear that something big is happening behind the scenes. As Andy Schectman reveals, these banks are being allowed to violate position limits, manipulate silver prices, and escape prosecution, all with political backing. And here's the kicker. Bart Chilton, a former CFTC commissioner, tried to expose it and was told to back down for political reasons. Shortly after, he passed away under mysterious circumstances. Andy Schectman might be next, as the forces behind this corruption will do anything to protect their interests. You have to ask yourself, how long can this go on before the entire financial system unravels?
But what I am saying is that the head of the CFTC admitted that what was happening was that they were allowing this bank to not only not pare down their short position, but in fact increase it. And he was told to back down. And it's the only time I've ever heard anyone in that position say something like that. Now let's go back. Why would they do it? Because the need for silver is so extreme in making high-tech weaponry and aerospace, like the stealth bomber. If there's 500 ounces needed in a Tomahawk cruise missile, how about the 260 billion we've given in weapons to the Ukraine? And all of that is high-tech weaponry that needs copious amounts of silver. Ask yourself this question. On the LBMA, the London Bullion Metals Exchange, they admit to having right now about 800 million ounces of silver, of which 500 million belong to the ETF. So they say we have 300 million. They also say That's the lowest position they've had since they started keeping records because it's being drained. We see massive, massive deliveries. In fact, just to highlight that one point, since 2020, when stand for deliveries became a common occurrence, and before that, no one stood for delivery. I started doing podcasts in 2020, a lot of it with Liberty and Finance screaming, they're draining the exchanges. I've never seen this before. No one ever stood for delivery. Well, now, since 2020, 2,136 tons of gold have stood for delivery and 24,072 tons of silver have stood for delivery. Well, that's just off the COMEX, and it goes to say these are staggering figures, but do not include exchanges for physical, which is a significant but unknown portion where swap for London forward contracts and then delivery taking, where you can buy a contract in the West and stand for delivery in London. We're also seeing stand for delivery in China because there is a little known contract that was developed in 2015 where there is a Brinks facility in Hong Kong where you can buy contract in the West and deliver it privately to this exchange in Hong Kong where it's then trucked over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange and sold. But that's for another discussion. But let me just simply say this. The LBMA will tell you that they have, in essence, 300 million ounces of silver that are not owned by the ETFs. They will also tell you that they will admit to trading 292 million ounces of that silver per day, every day, right? But they also will tell you that those numbers of 292 million ounces a day, basically the entire stash is traded every day. How the hell does that work? But then they go on to say, oh, but by the way, we're only posting the final settlement numbers, so the trades themselves are 10 times that number. So they're basically telling you they're trading upwards ends of 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, every day. That's 3.5 times annual global mine supply, of which 95% of those trades are paper promises. In other words, they overwhelm the system with paper, the commercial banks who have unlimited money, backed by the Western central banks who want to be able to produce and create high-tech weapons. And if you don't have cheap silver, you can't do that. And what's happening right now, for the first time in my career, is that you have countries like India and China who are now motivated, sophisticated, coordinated, wealthy, and cunning. And they are draining the exchanges using our stupidity, where you can see a $920 million fine by the Justice Department to JP Morgan for manipulating the silver market, the largest fine they've ever handed out, ever. And yet their head trader, Michael Nowak, who I've met before, is in prison right now for doing this. And yet they're still allowed to be the custodian of the world's largest silver trust, along with BlackRock. And JP Morgan is also part custodian of GLD. So you have the foxes guarding the henhouse. But why would COMEX be able to do 1,500, 1,600% rehypothecation in their silver contracts, meaning me, you, and 14 other people all own a contract. We think we can take delivery, but it happens to be on the same bars. If all of us try at the same time, it's what happened to Bernie Madoff. He ran a good shop until everyone said, give me my money, and then it was realized it was a Ponzi scheme. But that's what the Western markets are. And for the first time, these countries are now coordinated, sophisticated, and motivated and wealthy enough to stand for delivery. They are beating us at our own game, like jiu-jitsu, where you use your opponent's leverage against
momentum.
them.
Yeah.
They are using our leverage against us. So this will end poorly. How many people know China? A lot of people know they're the largest producer of gold in the world. How many people know they're the second largest producer of silver in the world? Yet,
right behind
they're
Mexico.
all around Latin America, buying all the silver concentrate and the silver doré, which is unrefined silver that comes directly from the miners. And instead of waiting till that silver is refined and is then traded on an exchange like the LBMA or the COMEX, they're buying it in unrefined form, paying double what the West will pay all throughout Latin America, shipping it home to China and refining it there. Therefore, it didn't come off of an exchange. It doesn't affect the price, and no one has any idea how much silver they are really accumulating. So when you see India import almost 800 million ounces of silver in the last 3 years, and China now becoming a net importer instead of a net exporter and buying up all the unrefined silver they can find, draining the exchanges, this is one of these deals that will wake up on a Monday morning one day and be, oh my God, what is that right? Could it really be that high? So yes, silver still to me is wealth, but I will tell you in all of my career, I've never seen a better investment than what silver has in every metric: supply, demand, plurality in demand, military, green, digital, electric, electronic,
Right.
investing. There are very few things that check all the boxes quite the way that silver does. So yeah.
Thanks for watching today's video. Let's quickly recap the key points we covered. We learned that 8 powerful Western banks are holding massive short positions in silver, creating unprecedented manipulation in the market. We also discussed how the military-industrial complex may be driving this silver suppression, as high-tech weaponry relies on it. Finally, we touched on how whistleblowers like Bart Chilton tried to expose these manipulations, but faced political pressure to stay silent. If you found this information valuable, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below.